Let's get right down to it. I'm so pleased to be joined by Mattie Duppler, the Budget and Regulatory Policy Director for Americans for Taxation, or Tax Reform, and Pete Sepp. I just renamed your organization. Pete Sepp,
quite a bit different, Jerry.
The Executive Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union. Welcome to you both. We've got a lot to get through here, lots of details. Not much of this is good, I got to tell you. Taxes going up everywhere. Mattie, let's start with those blue state tax increases. What's going on in California?
Right. Well, it's not all bad, but something obviously that's always going to be bad is when we're looking at California and its fiscal picture. This last year, California already has the most progressive personal income tax code in the nation, and they've only made it worse. What we're looking at is an income tax hike, a sales tax hike.
Wow.
In total, it's a $6 billion tax hike on California taxpayers.
All right. I'm taking California on my move to list, off my move to list. Minnesota, what do you say?
Absolutely.
What's going on there, Mattie?
Minnesota also another $2 billion in tax increases. Interesting from, when we're looking at the Midwest, it's a really great dichotomy between states that are really going in the wrong direction and states that are going in the right direction. You've, of course, got states like Wisconsin, where the governor is really tackling the hard issues of both taxes and unfunded liabilities and pension problems. And then you have states like Minnesota, Illinois, that take the opposite direction, try to raise taxes and fill those holes without having any budget reforms to go along with them.
And just to complete this whole idea here, Illinois raised income taxes from 3% to 5%, increased state corporate tax rates, and their unfunded pension liability is $100 billion. They're doing really well. Massachusetts having problems as well. I have to tell you, you look at these numbers, and Pete Sepp, to you, all I see are increases in these blue states. These are states that absolutely are going to be more expensive to live in. How do you think taxpayers are going to react?
I think they're going to react with anger. And part of the problem, of course, is in many of these states, California being an exception, people don't necessarily have the tools available to them to mount a statewide tax revolt. Only about half of the states in America have the power granted to their citizens to initiate ballot measures that can rein in taxes, and only half of that half really have a strong power where people can utilize it to change the way taxes are levied and limit their growth in the future. So the opportunities are difficult at the state level. Many times they go to the local level now.
All right. Well, interesting, Mattie. Maryland, there's now a millionaire's tax increase from 5.5% to 6.25%. This is the president's fight. We're going to make those rich people pay.
Right.
They're not paying enough. They need to pay more. Is this going to catch on?
Well, we'll see. Maryland is an entirely different beast since they have not only a millionaire's tax hike, they've got a sales tax hike, they've got a gas tax hike, they've got a tax on rainwater now in Maryland.
What?
If it moves,
What?
they want to tax it. Yes, they've got a tax on what, depending on how big your roof is on your house. The rain running off of it apparently is taxable, as is your ability to flush your toilet. Septic tanks get taxed in Maryland.
You're making my head hurt.
If you're looking to move anywhere in the DMV area, don't go to Maryland. The district actually might be a better choice for you.
You're kidding.
And Virginia, of course, will be much better.
That's saying something. All right. Pete, I want to talk about property taxes.
Yes.
Because, we took a look at some numbers. Second quarter, U.S. property tax collections were $478 billion. That's one quarter. That's 3 months. I mean, think about that. That's a lot of money. And a lot of people out there still facing sky-high property taxes, even though prices on their homes have gone down. What can they do? What can they do to cut that bill?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Between 2010 and 2011, that was the only point at which property tax collections fell off by all of 1.3%. Why? Because most properties are overassessed. Experts say somewhere between 30 and 60% of them are overassessed. So 3 things you can do. Number one, you've got to avail yourself of existing property tax relief programs. If you're over 65 or a veteran or disabled or have moderate income, chances are there's some kind of relief program available to you. Many times they're funded, though, at the state level through the state income tax return filing process. So you've got to look out for your property tax relief when you're filing your income taxes.
Well, the beauty of this, and maybe, Mattie, you can speak to this as well, is that you can actually protest this, and it's not a big deal. I mean, it takes some work. You have to look up some material with your local property tax records, get the assessment, see what your assessment looks like, compare it to properties in the neighborhood. And if you're paying a lot more, if you're paying 10% more, you can appeal. and you'll probably have a good case. Mattie, is that a good thing to do?
Yeah, I think it is. And if you take that analogy and expand it to the entire United States, you look and see what people are doing and how they're voting when it comes to their tax burdens. Half the states in this country are red states. They're controlled both at the legislature and in the governor mansion by Republicans. And you've got 25 states that have red states, and you've got about 19 of those states cutting taxes over the past 2 years. So you've got folks who are looking at their environments and their economic environments and saying, this is what we want from our governments, because then you look at blue states like California, like Illinois, and these are states where 13 or so of the states in the country are controlled entirely by Democrats. 10 of those states have increased taxes over the past 10 years. So you can already see the trends if you're a taxpayer and trying to understand and gauge your economic environment, and you can maybe move accordingly according to your interests.
Well, and more people are doing that. Pete, you and I have talked extensively about what's going on at the federal level with income taxes and taxes of all sorts. I think people are going to be making that choice. I think we're going to be looking for low-tax states. Do you agree?
Yeah, they have to vote with their feet, and the appeals process for property taxes, of course, is one way that you can lower your individual bill, but you can't necessarily control policymakers who just want to keep raising tax rates in that way. Sometimes, if the initiative and referendum process won't afford you a way out, if you can't form an effective local taxpayer group that can drive these rates down, you've got to flee. And that's what's been happening. Most of the populations of small business owners and people fed up with taxes are moving from the north and the east to the south and the west, generally stopping before they hit California. But those states are benefiting from economic growth and new opportunities.
Well, I love your guys' attitude. You want us to take the world by storm. Mattie and Pete, thanks for coming on tonight. Great job.
My pleasure. Take